I left school at 16. It's not an unusual story. It's a very common story. I left school at 16, no qualifications, no job, dead-end job then, one after the other. I've done every shitty job under the sun. And in my mid-20s, I got to a point where I was like, man, I am over this. There's got to be more to life. And then I discovered, mixed martial arts. And I did it all for a monetary reason. I did it to give my family a good life. Now, I won the belt. Obviously, that comes with some extra cash. And then I had a big fight against George St. Pierre. Where now, when I fought George St. Pierre, just getting that license to fight in New York, that was very, very hard. I won't go into details, but they made me jump through so many hurdles. I'd sign disclaimers, get letters off doctors, second opinions, all kinds of stuff. And on the last week of training, just again, a sparring partner picked me up and dumped me. He went for a takedown like his life depended on it, and he landed on me and tore all the cartilage in my ribs, and I couldn't hardly move. And this was a huge fight. George St. Pierre is a massive draw. This was going to be a massive, massive payday. Now, if my eye condition wasn't like it was, I probably would have withdrawn from the fight and said, all right, we'll do it another time. But, I had to do it, so whatever. I had a shitty performance, and fair play to George, you beat me. And then from there, I knew I was almost done. But then Anderson Silva failed the steroid test, and Kelvin Gastelum needed another opponent. I was overtrained for the GSP, and I was like, you know what, screw it, whatever. It is what it is. I'll fly out there and get another payday. So I went out there and, listen, money's one thing and legacy's another. You can't buy a legacy. So I do regret doing that Kelvin Gastelum fight because I had no business doing that. I was overtrained. In fact, I didn't train for that fight whatsoever. I was overtrained for the GSP one. Then I went on the piss for a couple of weeks and then flew out to China with my mates. You know what I mean? He was training for the biggest fight of his life. I'd already been choked out a couple of weeks ago. So, the conditions weren't right. But there was a lot of money on the table. And I was like, well, I knew I was almost done. And for me, that's why I got into this. So I got into it to give, my family a better life. And as I say, I won't go into the actual number, but it was a big number. It was a huge number. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll go and collect that.
Of course, I'd rather have that. Like I said, I want the biggest and highest ranked guys that I can get. I'm not circling back around to these guys or begging for fights. I'll fight Dan Hooker, no problem. But my job is to get the biggest fights, get the most money, get the highest ranked opponents that I can get. So whenever I see people and opportunities that make sense, like me and Conor, of course I would push for that. It just depends on what the UFC has in mind and Conor's time frame that he wants to fight. A lot of factors play into all this decision making, but I'm definitely open to the fight.
What about doing it at welterweight? I know you mentioned welterweight was a possibility. Is that still an opening for you that you would consider that?
I'd love that. I'd love it at welterweight. I'd love it in a boxing ring. I'd love it in MMA. I'd take it at 185. I don't care. I just want the biggest fights that I can get, and that's definitely one of them.
A boxing ring. I like to hear that one. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, dude. They talking about Zuffa boxing. I've been open about that. I would love to box Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor in the octagon or in a boxing ring.
John did kind of reach out and tweeted about my whole situation. Someone said something and it said something like, I'm glad Anthony's okay. That guy wouldn't have walked out of my house. So it's like, what a perfect moment to flex, John. Like in the middle of a disaster like that, in my home. Like what a perfect opportunity to flex of how goddamn cool you are. Like just when you thought, oh man, that's pretty admirable of John Jones to reach out, and well wish me. And then as you continue to read it, you're like, oh, that's right. I forgot you're still a fucking douchebag. Like it's just his opportunity to insert himself and make sure everybody knows how cool and badass he is. Like, for a second, I thought I was going to have to respond and say, hey, thanks, man, I appreciate it. And then you continue reading, you're like, oh yeah. Just for a second, I thought. A little
dig in there.
Yeah, just for a second, I thought you were human and like you had a soul. And then I realized, you're still the same piece of shit that you've always been. Whatever. Like, you're such a douchebag, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, first of all, like, I had worst case scenario. So we get it, John. We know you're all over Twitter and Instagram with all your guns and your cool dog and like whatever. But I got caught. I got caught slipping, worst case scenario. Like, guns weren't close, not typical. Doors was open, not typical. You know, like I don't get what he's getting at. Like, it's real easy to sit there. I've been that guy that said, like, man, if that guy came in my house, I'd have just beat the shit out of him, blah, blah, I would have done this and that, I'd have shot him. Like, it's really easy to say that until you're caught in it and you've been awake for 8 seconds and you're in the middle of a goddamn pandemonium throwdown in the middle of your living room with no pants on. Like, nobody's ready for that shit. So it's real easy to flex on Twitter